Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from today. Welcome to today's Informative Friday session, Unlock the Future of Business Efficiency with Infor ERP Cloud Success, which is being presented today by Doug Cottrell. My name is Molly Velasco, and I'll be helping moderate the session today. Please be aware that the session is being recorded. Quick logistical information before we get started. Please use the chat feature to ask any questions throughout the presentation, and we'll be sure to address them. There will also be a Q&A session at the end where you can come off mute and ask questions, but please use the chat feature during the presentation. Highly encourage you to take advantage of the time today and ask any questions and interact with our team. A copy of the presentation and a link to the recording will be sent to all registrants. If you're not a registrant and you would like a copy, please send me an email and I will include you on that distribution, and I will drop my email in the chat in a few minutes. So before we get started, we do have to go over a quick disclaimer, and then we'll move into today's presentation. So the material in this presentation is in reference to Infor Cloud Suite and is for informational purposes only. We just want to provide you with considerations as you make the best decision for your organization. Reliance on the information presented without consultation is at your own risk. We highly recommend that you contact Nordic to discuss how solutions can be tailored specifically to your needs. So with that, I will turn it over to today's presenter, Doug Cottrell, who is the Director of Client Services or Client Solutions for our ERP team.
Thanks, Molly. Yes, and I was supposed to have Brett Weiss here, but unfortunately, some things have conflicted with him, and he's not going to be joining us. So you're going to be stuck with me, and hopefully, I don't push too many people away because I want to give you, kind of my thoughts on things, and hopefully, you'll see what I mean on some of them, and we'll just take it from there. So today's objective is to increase user adoption and software satisfaction, right? And so what we're talking about here is, and part of the reasoning that this presentation came to mind for us is I've had a couple of engagements over the last few months where clients have already moved to Infor's Cloud Suite applications, and they just said, after being on it for it's been a variety, 6 months, 4 years, 6, 7 years. Those clients have been become unhappy with their software, and it's been a little bit of a mystery to me as to why. Because they say things to us like, well, the software doesn't do this or the software doesn't do that. And the software does. And what we've come to find out is that, the hardest part about owning the software, whether you're on Lawson and you're running it on premise, or you're in the cloud and you're receiving updates every 6 months with a new group of enhancements, is taking advantage of those enhancements when they're available to you. And so today what we're going to talk about is how do we take advantage of those enhancements? How do we stay on top of things? How do we stay current? And how do we end up in a place where we like our software? Because that's, I've been in this Infor Lawson world since the mid 1990s. And, I am a promoter of this software. It works. It works well. We just need to make sure that all the people that are using it know about it, know how it works. I've had a million times where we've had a consultant sit down with an end user, and the end user shows them what they're doing, and the consultant is like, "Why are you doing it that way? Instead of these 5 clicks, you could just click here and you'll get that same answer." And every user, when they see that, is like, just saved my life. And it is the most simple little change to make for for another human, and the gratefulness that you receive for it is, almost unmeasurable. And it's something little. I just had a call last week where a client was annoyed because when their hiring letters went out, there was a misspelling in the letter, in the template, and no one would fix it for them, or they didn't know how to tell the person to fix it, or they didn't know how to fix it themselves. And so every time they put out a letter, they had to go, into the third paragraph and fix some word in sentence number two. And they just decided to live with it. They had asked, it didn't get fixed, and they decided, well, I'll just live with that. And after a while, they forget it's even a problem. It just becomes part of their process. Um, but it is a problem. And, I want to make sure that you have the ability to fix that stuff, and that people are listening to the users when they have these sorts of, you know not complaints, but these concerns, or these odd workarounds that they do in order to do their job. So let's talk a little bit more about that. uh, you know so we've got a quote here, and if you know Brett, you'd know why there'd be a quote in the deck. And so he's always good at giving a good anecdote around one of these quotes. And this one, uh, the point is just simply stop doing what you've been doing, and let's do things. Let's look at problems, and let's make a change uh, to our process so that we can adopt or adapt and fix those problems. All right, so that's what we're trying to do here on today's call. So kind of back to what I was talking about earlier of just not taking advantage of the software. There's a variety of different reports from Gartner or Chartis, or a variety of different strategic implementers out there that will tell you, how well is ERP used. And this isn't Infor. This is ERP in general. You can pick any brand name, and what you end up finding out is, this one says 7, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 15, but there's a very small percentage of the features that are kind of core to the system that everybody uses. Everybody's going to implement that. And then we have another 10, 15, 20% that is used by most people. The bad part is the part here I have in green is that 50% of the application isn't being used. And so we have customers out there that, this even happens in the world of Lawson, where they're running Lawson, they're not running it well, and then they call a competitor software company over to say, what's your product do? And well, one, you're comparing a brand new software to, a decades old Lawson system. And so, yeah, the new software does it better. But Infor's Cloud Suite is also the quote new software, and it also does things better. And so I just hate it when, a Lawson user specifically thinks that the grass is going to be greener on the other side by going and looking at another vendor, when their software probably does what they need it to do now. And if we're talking about Cloud Suite, it almost definitely does. And so how do we get around that? How do we fix that problem? So what we do is, from Nordic, we will do a business process assessment with a customer. But this isn't supposed to be a sales pitch. So I'm going to just kind of talk about the process of it. And I want to see if there's, from your perspective as the user, either as a business user, as part of IT, as part of a PMO within your organization, can you find someone that can take on the responsibility to do this job? Right. So the first thing we have to do is figure out what the problems are. And in order to do that, we need to bring together your leadership. We need to bring together the people that are using the system every day, those subject matter experts and daily users who really know what the the problems are, or maybe don't know what the problem is, but if they told you, you might be able to look at it and go, that seems like that's a long process, or that seems harder than it should be. Let's investigate that. Um, and so, and you want IT involved, right? So we need people from IT who understand some of the tools and the capabilities from a technical perspective. We need those subject matter experts because they're the ones doing all the work and they're the ones running into the issues. And we need our executive leadership to be involved too, because are they getting what they want out of the system? And if they are getting it, are they getting it in a way that is efficient, right? So sometimes CFO is completely happy because his report looks fantastic and he's got all the information he wants. But if you ask the subject matter expert that provided that to them, that person was, like a duck swimming. All the paddling that had to go on in order to finally get this data into the CFO's hands was, a ridiculous amount of work. And if they could figure out a way to stop having to do that, that would that would be great for them. And so it's just about tying all the different needs together. We've got executive needs, we have kind of operational needs, and while operation is maybe supporting the executive needs, operations is also supporting, just a lot of work across the whole organization. We need to bring them together and ask them, where are your issues, and then see if we can find some ways of fixing them. So we'll come back around to this. So on a high level, next thing you know, so we've documented what these issues are when we get together and we have these conversations, and then we got to figure out, well, how do we fix it? And then if we are going to fix it, what, why are we going to fix it? Will it actually improve things? Is it an impact for one person? Is it an impact for the entire organization? And just if it's an impact to one person, that still might be fine. That doesn't mean you don't do it. Um, right. I mean, if the one person's an executive, it probably gets a little bit more push from your organization. But even if the one person is just it's a accounts receivable person, um, but it's something that they have to do and it takes an extra minute of their time, but they do it 100 times a week. Let's try to save them 100 minutes worth of work. Let's figure out a way to fix that. Still a good impact. And my guess is that the cost or the effort needed to do it wouldn't be very high. And so we can improve their life. And this is just about helping the culture of your organization. Let's help people be happy in the jobs that they're doing. And then next, so that's part of the whole prioritizing these recommendations. And then we develop a roadmap, we get them on the roadmap, and then probably even more important than the roadmap is we assign responsibility of getting them off the roadmap and into, actually executed against. So when Nordic does it, we have a 3-month process where we go through and do the review and the assessment and help you get things onto the roadmap and try to drive you into doing execution from there. When you do it, you make string it out into a much longer timeline. You might want to focus on one particular work stream at a time, and that's a fine way to go about it too. Because I know every organization is asked to do more with less, when in reality we end up doing less with less because you just can't. Organizations end up cutting things so tight that we just don't have someone to take up these opportunities to enhance things. We're just constantly playing whack-a-mole and hitting the urgent matter of the day, and so we want to try to get past that. So what's the process look like? Well, as I said before, we're going to bring leadership together. We're going to bring your stakeholders together, get IT together, and we're going to walk through all the processes. Now, you can gather um, a list of processes from Infor, right, from the software. You can get it from any of the Infor partners out there would be able to provide you that information. I'm sure if you called Infor's cloud support, you could probably get a listing of what um, all the processes are. But the people doing the work they know the process anyway. So let's just get them in the room and start walking through what they do. And every time they say they take something out of the system and do something, you should put a red flag in the ground there, right? Because we don't want people pulling information out of the system, doing something to it, and then putting it back into the system. And if they are doing that, we want to do it in a controlled, automated way, so we know that there aren't manual um, mistakes made, in the process. Right? I just had a customer that is they want to do remittance advice, and uh, they have a process partially done that automates a portion of it, but at the end, they're copying and pasting information into an email and then sending that email. One, I'm sure there's a bunch of times where they send the wrong email to the wrong place just because they're copying and pasting. Um, and that just takes a lot of time, just to go through and copy and paste when you have a system that could do that for you. We could create an automation and make that happen, and for not a lot of money. Or you might have the people inside your organization that have skill to do that. If we could just free them up for enough time to do it. And kind of, I'll probably keep coming back to this. In order to free them up, we need to have somebody responsible for this. So I guess what I'm urging you all to do is somewhere in the organization have someone whose job role it is to stay current, is to enhance the system, um, so that we don't continue to fall behind. All right, so you're having your meetings, you need to document what's happened. So in Nordic, we just create a spreadsheet that has, a few columns, and we talk about what process we're reviewing. We jot down what observations we found. Usually with us, because we're a consulting firm and you're telling us something, we're probably giving you some feedback right on the spot of, you're doing this. Did you know you could just do that? And so some stuff we just fix as a matter of course while we're going through the process. But for you, just gather it, document it, and then we'll figure out the next step of figuring out what the fix for it is. And so let's move to that. How do we figure out the fix? Well, if you're a cloud customer, call Infor. Infor they'll give you a generic answer on what the possible fix would be. And it's probably going to be good advice. I would just say, put it in your test system, test it, demonstrate it to the person who is going to get the benefit from this, make sure they see the impact of it, and check for um, unintended consequences as well. See, you've made this change. How's that affecting other things in your process? So I'd go through the whole process testing to make sure that it doesn't have a negative effect and it has the positive effect that you wanted it to have. And in some of those cases, they're going to be so easy that you're just going to do them in tests, you're going to see that it works, and you're just going to promote it to prod, and that's going to be a benefit for the person that it impacts. Sometimes they're going to be bigger. Sometimes they're going to be, you've got an issue where you're paying too much for your supplies. You are buying from places that aren't approved. Well, so maybe contract management is not implemented, and that's something that needs to be done. Or you've only implemented what was the PO20 equivalent in Lawson. So you want to go through and do a full implementation of contract management. Okay, more complicated. You might need a consultant for this. So here's one where you might go out and engage with your peers. Go to your local user group. Engage with Infor at their Connect or their Velocity event. Like Velocity's next week in Las Vegas. That's an opportunity to come and not only meet the developers and meet the people who make the software and ask them about potential fixes. All of the partners are there, so you can ask any of us about it as well, and we'll try to help you. But even better is your peers are there. Find your peers in your industry and talk about what the problems that you have are. Ask them what their problems are. And maybe you can exchange advice together and come to conclusions on what you can do to fix your software, or improve or enhance the way that your current configure of the software is. There's a lot of ways for you to do this without having to go engage a partner. And like I said, I'm trying not to make this a sales pitch, but we're there to help you if you want us to do it. But you can save yourself some money by doing the assessment yourself and bringing the high level items to us that you want us to work on, instead of having us do all of it for you. So while we're happy to come and do a complete um, assessment and review and planning and impact analysis, uh, help you create a business plan on why this should get done, um, you don't.
We may have, Doug, you cut out for just a little bit there.
Trying to connect back. So
Yeah.
am I
Yep.
back in?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, we've got hurricanes coming around the East Coast.
Right.
I'm in the middle of a rainstorm right now, so I'm hoping things continue to work. Okay. So let's move back off of um, oh, why I have the screen up still though, on the right side here, you see the kind of the general overview. And so this is once you've figured out what the fix may be, um, you got to figure out how much effort is it to implement it. And so if you just think of it from a low, medium, high perspective, and you can figure out what's low, medium, and high, relative to your organization, or time or resource availability. Um, but if you can plot kind of on a graph, what are the low items, and then also plot, or cross-reference what are the high impact items. Well, those should be the first things you should fix. If it's not going to cost you a lot of money and it's going to have high positive impact for your organization, focus there first. Knock a couple of those out, get some wins. And if you get some wins, that responsibility that you've now taken on to be the person to help improve life for organization, people are going to see that you've just done that, and they're going to probably give you a little bit more free reign to do more of it because they can now see the positive output. That's just having you do that. That work is. And so get those low hanging fruit, make some, medium or high impact items that didn't cost very much, and then start looking at the other high impact items that maybe have a little bit more cost to them. And those are the ones you're going to start wanting to probably put on a roadmap because you're going to need to get some budget for them, because they are more complex, or you're going to have to hire additional people for them, or you might need to do some staffing for them, or you might need to bring in a partner or somebody to help you, move through those. Let's kind of come back. All right, so you've got to you've gone through, you've created your little bubble map now of where the different pieces are. You go back to leadership and you present, look, I've knocked out some of these low items. We made some positive impact. I've got this list of high items. How do we get these done? And you start working on convincing leadership that these are things that you need to have. It's a good idea to take your list and put it, in our terms, we would say a Moscow list. So Moscow stands for must have, should have, could have, and won't have, right? Some items are going to end up in the won't have bucket. They're going to be too low a impact and too high a cost. And you're just get them off the table and let's not think about them, and let's work on the things we can fix. And then let's look at those must-have, should-haves. Now, I would hope you don't have very many must-haves because when you went live, I think the must-haves should have gotten taken care of, but you might have some should-haves in that list. Let's look at those and let's figure out how much they are, and let's work with leadership to create a, uh, a a business plan on how we're going to, a business case on how we're going to get those things solved. in order to do that, you're going to need to know how long does it take to do it. Kind of nail down what the scope is and what the priority is. So I know when you work with Nordic and we are doing this for you, we don't prioritize. We might advise you on priority, but priority is a customer specific event. You need to figure out what is most important for you, and then we'll support that. Um, you have an estimate of what the effort is, whether it's going to require your people, outside staffing, whatever it is, and there may be costs associated with those. There's either cost of time or cost of actual dollars. And so then you get it on the roadmap and you figure out what quarter is a good quarter to do that sort of work, and you start knocking them off. And this is one of the hardest parts is, we've gathered all the information. We know where the problems are. We even know what the fixes are. When are we going to do them? When are we going to have time to do it? So again, you need somebody that can be that executive to support it. You have to have somebody that's actually, even if the executive says, yes, go do, someone needs to be the person that rides that thing, that gets it actually, implemented. You got to pull together those resources. You're going to have to bring back that subject matter expert from your team. You're going to bring your IT folks back into the fold here and start running a project, an internal project. And so, that's the next hard step that you have there. But once you've done this and you've knocked out a lot of these items that are on your list and you've made some improvement, you shouldn't be one of those organizations that's saying the software just doesn't. You'll be saying the software does, and I know how to do it, and I know when I'm going to do it. And, we're happy that we're making progress. And I think just owning software, unfortunately, is always going to be in a state of trying to improve, right? So you've got you went live, and you went live with what you could get done within the budget that you had for that project, within the timeline that you had for that project, and some stuff got pushed to the side. 6 months after you go live is actually the best time to do your first business process assessment. You're now using the system, and you know where your struggles are, because now you're past the point of not being familiar with navigating the system or understanding how the system works. You're into the point now of the process either is not as efficient as I wish it were, or you've pushed something off, and maybe now's a good time to get that back onto your roadmap. So we advise 6 months after implementation, but any time after implementation is a time to just work through and start trying to improve your system the way it works. The other thing that comes into play is release management. So you hopefully you will smile if you were a Lawson customer and you skipped an upgrade. We had plenty of customers that would push upgrades out and push them out and push them out. And next thing you know, there'll be 3 versions behind. They get to the point where they call Lawson. Lawson would tell them, I can't fix this problem because you're too many patches behind. You're going to have to patch. And then eventually they would patch. I've worked at organizations in the past that provided managed services, and in those cases, we were a little bit like the check engine light in your car. You'd get in, and it would say you need an oil change, and you're like, I got to do that maintenance. And the best part about that light always staying on is every time you get in the car, you're reminded you got to do it, and you usually will take care of it and do it. That's how my previous organization would work. We'd keep it in front of you so that you go ahead and you take the initiative to do the update. In today's world, right, we've got software as a service that's putting out major enhancements every 6 months, and a lot of that stuff is toggled off. So while you can't stop the upgrade from coming, you can kind of ignore it and allow the enhancements to kind of go to the side. Now, at some point, Infor will mandatory toggle on, and you're going to get that enhancement plugged into your system and operational, and hopefully you've taken the time to do some testing before that's happened, so you're not surprised by it. But if you stay in this constant state of enhancement and optimization, excuse me, you can stay on top of that stuff, right? We got a big CU coming out in October. There's going to be a lot of enhancements in that. Infor has been doing a good job of getting that, the list of what those enhancements are out to the user community. But I'm going to guess that a bunch of you have just said, "Oh, that's interesting. I'll look at that later," because you're busy and you're doing less, or supposedly more with less, right? And so you just don't have the time to do it. I'm just kind of pleading with you here: take the time and take advantage of these enhancements as they're coming out, because you've got your documented list of challenges that you just done in the first part of this conversation we've had, and now enhancement comes out. Let's see if any of those enhancements have an effect on one of those documented challenges, and let's see if we can use this as an opportunity to implement that. Let's toggle on that enhancement, and let's fix something right now. um, so what else can I tell you? So you need somebody that's running, kind of running a point on staying, um, or understanding your current challenges, and you need somebody that's running point on making sure that the enhancements that are out there are being reviewed and seeing if they can fix some of those issues. And then you need somebody who's running on point to actually affect these changes and push them through, right? And so there's a lot of work for you to do as an owner of the software, um, but it's better to do this and put in the time to continue to keep your system optimized, uh, than it is 4 or 6 years after your implementation decide, hey, I think I'm going to go see if another vendor provides something better. Uh, and then spending millions of dollars to implement another vendor's solution just to end up at exactly the same point of, we've gone live and now we're not maintaining that system, because it's not going to matter if you have Infor or Workday or Oracle or any other version of software. You still really should spend your time on staying up to date on what enhancements are coming in each one of these releases, what patches have come out in each of the patch releases, uh, and which toggle-ons are coming on, at a certain date. And you can sort on the dates when those things are all supposed to come active, so you can prioritize which ones you should be looking at. But you need to stay on top of this stuff, or you will fall behind, and your users will begin to think that their system isn't up to date, even though it's been moved up to date every 6 months. It's refreshed. Um, but that's just what can happen if you allow things to just sit and not take advantage of all of that, all the opportunity that's out in front of you. So, um, yeah, so I think that's what my pitch was today. It was really just to implore on all Infor owners out there to take the time and put somebody in a responsible position, or a position responsible for taking advantage of all the things that are out there for you, that are, you're either already paying for, um, and you're not getting the value out of. So please go ahead and do that. So I think I'll stop and see if we have any questions, or anybody has any anecdotes they'd like to share about this. Happy to hear.
A long pause.
Yeah.
If anybody's brave enough to ask anything.
Yeah, it's cool. It's probably a downer kind of presentation, right? Because I'm asking you to do work. Um, but I just think it's good. It's a good investment of your time. And it pains me when I see an organization put out an RFP to move to, other software because they think their software doesn't do, what it can do.
Yes, I agree. And we're all a little biased. We love Infor, so we know it can do
Mhm.
all of that. So
Well, there's that, and there's some facts there too. So we know it can do a lot of things that, some of our competition doesn't do. So the grass is just greener on the side of the fence, really. But we'll move on from that.
so it looks like you have a question in the chat. So Donna was asking, do you have any specifics of features that are underutilized? Realizing that this is dependent upon each client.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is really dependent on each client, and in my position as a generalist, I probably am not deep enough into um, be able to pick out certain ones that probably pop up a lot. I'd say one of the ones that seems to come up a lot is um, the people that move to uh, GHR back when it was single tenant and are still sitting on single tenant. I've had plenty of those calls where they're just like, this software doesn't do anything. It's what a miserable experience it is owning this. We've had to buy 4 different bolt-on things in order to, make talent acquisition, talent management run. Uh, and then you show them, the multi-tenant version of the software with all of the enhancements that have been added there that, were not added to single tenant. And you see their eyes light up. They're like, well, it does that? I didn't even know this was an option. And unfortunately, I think that's just how it is in most cases where the end user has just learned a workaround, or they've learned to just put up with an inefficiency, and they don't even know to complain about it anymore. They just think that's how it is and it's never going to change. Um, but it may have changed. They just don't know it yet.
I know we have a few of our consultants on. I don't know if they have any feedback on that question. No pressure putting you on the spot.
Is Candace on? Because I know
No,
Candace has been
yeah,
on
I know. I was
some of
looking
those
for some of those
conversations. And
managers would have a lot to say, I'm sure.
yeah. Okay.
Um,
Well, so we
also,
have an
sorry,
option.
oh,
Oh, you have a
Doug's.
question?
Yeah, so Donna also asked if we're able to forward some blank templates used for analysis for future enhancements.
Um, like analysis. I can see what we can put together. Yeah, send me an email or send Molly an email, and we'll follow up with you, see what we can put together. I mean, we've got um, some stuff that's Nordic owned intellectual property, so we probably can't put that out, but I think there's probably some general stuff that we can provide you.
Yeah. Donna, I probably should have your email because hopefully you're registered, but if you just want to send me an email to make sure I have it, that'd be great.
I think the next slide is coffee with consultants. Is that correct,
Oh,
Molly?
yes. Yep.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, so if you
I'm in
want
charge of it. I can click it. Yeah,
to.
so this is another option. If you've gone through, you've done some of that analysis, but you don't know, you've discovered the problem, but you don't know a solution. Well, we've got a free option here, right? You can call us and get 30 minutes with a consultant and talk about what the hurdle is you ran into, and we can give you some advice. Here's what you might try. Here's what might fix it for you. Um, and that's free. So why not take advantage of us on that?
Yeah. definitely. And you can go to the website to sign up for that, or always send me an email and I could put you in touch with the right person.
Molly is our process automation. You're you're the backup version. We've got the Nordic Global contact, but if automation doesn't work, you can reach straight to Molly. She'll make it happen.
That's right. Okay, next slide.
Oh, slow.
Slow transition.
There it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, so today is actually the last session in our September series for this quarter. So we'll begin again in 2025, which is so hard to believe that that's coming. So next series, February of 2025. So look for registration information in January for that. And then last thing to cover is our team is going to Infor Velocity next week, which is hard to believe that that's October. So please look, if you're
Right.
going, please look for our team, introduce yourself. We would love to get a chance to talk to you in person, and especially about these topics that Doug brought up today. So
That's right. So
thanks,
I'll
Doug.
be there. Dave Thomas will be there, and so we'll be happy to see you. But probably more importantly, we've got Mark and Arden will be there. If you've got some finance questions, they're probably the people to talk to. So come by, uh, tell us what you're struggling with, and see if we can fix it right there in Vegas.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Doug, for the presentation. Great information. And thanks everybody for joining. And hopefully we will see you at Velocity, and if not, in February on our next quarterly series.
Alrighty.
Have a
Thanks,
great
everyone.
weekend and stay safe.
Thanks, Molly.
Thank you.